Well, good evening. Welcome back to Restorative Yoga. We are talking about some seeds that we can plant. We talked a little bit last week about karma and how the relationship between our thoughts, our words, and our deeds, which are the seeds, and then every seed makes some kind of fruit or flower or something else that contains more seeds. And we talked about how there's really no such thing as good or bad seeds or good or bad actions as far as morality. It's more like which actions or which seeds will grow into something that leads us toward that feeling of union or oneness, connection, abundance, wholeness. And what seeds are we planting that maybe pull us away from that goal? So it's not about sin or anything like that. It's or crime and punishment or rewards. It's really just more about being aligned with our actions and understanding how they create outcomes that can take us toward or away from our goal. So tonight we're going to talk about 4 seeds that we can be really intentional about planting that can bring us to this state of yoga or oneness. I'm going to read you 3 different versions of the same sutra just to kind of give you a broad idea of what this means. So Nishala Joy Devi's translation is to preserve openness of heart and calmness of mind, nurture these attitudes: kindness to those who are happy, compassion for those who are less fortunate, honor for those who embody noble qualities, and equanimity for those whose actions oppose your values. That last one is our challenge for the night. And let me read you another version of that same sutra. So this is Yoga Sutra 133. This one comes from Swami Satchidananda. He says, by cultivating attitudes of friendliness toward the happy, compassion for the unhappy, delight in the virtuous, and disregard for the wicked, the mind stuff, so we know that as the chitta, the mind stuff retains its undisturbed calmness. And then I have one more version of this, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit about what this means. This is same thing, one Sutra 133. This one is Sadashiva Isham. He says, from friendliness toward happiness, from compassion toward suffering, from joyfulness toward virtue, and from indifference toward vice is born a clarity of consciousness. So really the idea, we kind of hear those 4 seeds echoed in each one of these. We'll call them kindness, compassion, honor, and equanimity. There are some sutras that talk about this, person or people who are opposing our values as something we should disregard or detach from or sort of ignore. Which is kind of interesting too. But I like that Nishala Joy Devi calls it equanimity because it refers to that stillness within, that when we are settled, when we are aligned with our purpose, ideally we can stay in that state of alignment and really it's oneness, wholeness, steadiness within. And we're not as moved by the mind moving, the feelings moving, or the world moving, or worse, the actions of others over which we have no control. And then we're able to stay in that state of yoga. And the more seeds we plant of this kindness, this compassion, this respect and honor, and of this ability to remain steady in the face of opposition, the more seeds we're planting toward a continuous state of wholeness in ourselves, and the more we're opening that door and creating that environment which enables other people to find that same equanimity. So what we're going to do is try to embody some of this. We're going to find first a sense of stillness and try to become rooted in that place of yoga, or at least remember or recall that state of yoga so that we can try to cultivate it with the rest of our postures. So our first shape will be a Shavasana kind of shape. Feel free to modify it in any way that you'd like, maybe raising the knees or the feet in some way. Feeling free also, if you have a heavier blanket, just leaving it folded and just kind of placing it over the hips. This kind of roots the sacrum down a little bit, provides a little bit more steadiness in the body. And take a few minutes to really kind of settle in, kind of shake out the body a little bit, wiggle out the fingers and toes, just kind of shake out any tension. Feel the back body get very heavy. Feel it settling into a stillness. Note the alignment of your spine and the lack of effort to maintain that alignment as we just let our bodies sink into the floor. Come into a state of stillness as satisfaction, stillness in the mind, craving nothing. Stillness in the flow of feelings and just contentedness with this moment. And the first real posturing that we're going to be doing as we lie here in Shavasana is really more of taking on poses in the mind. So we're going to draw to mind someone who we know for things are going well. Someone for whom abundance is there, joyfulness, a sense of satisfaction with their lives. Someone who's achieving success in some way. And as we hold this person in our hearts and our minds during this stillness time, see if you can cultivate for this person a sense of genuine celebration with them. Releasing any jealousy or indignance, resentments. Just clearing away anything that is of the ego and beginning to send out a participation in their joy that is genuine and personal to you. By finding this joy or this kindness for those who are experiencing happiness, we plant seeds of happiness for ourselves and all others. We participate in the wholeness and connection. Bring to mind someone you know, maybe yourself, maybe someone else, who is experiencing challenge. Someone for whom the road is a little rough right now. Somebody who might be suffering, feeling stressed. And if that sounds familiar to you in this moment, just kind of hold yourself in that place. Or if that doesn't feel like your life right now in this moment, just kind of remember a time where that was true for you. And then from your wholeness, from the place where you are your true self, where all of your needs are met and you are aligned effortlessly with your purpose, your dharma, send that person compassion. Send your support, send your empathy. Connect to that person. Feel the wholeness of your connection to that person. Then bring to mind someone you know or know of, a teacher, a leader, a mentor, a friend, a loved one, who embodies noble qualities, who has virtuous character, who sets an example of love and kindness and peace, who has in some way imparted or shared their wisdom with you, whether you knew them personally or you read their text or whatever it might be. And in your heart of hearts and from your true self, just send your respect and your honor and your gratitude for their example. Release that image from your mind and just take a few breaths with nothing at all. Just kind of settle yourself back into that heaviness and steadiness in the body. Observe your breath for a few rounds, noticing just the ease of your breath, the relaxation in your mind, your heart, and your body. And now we're going to try our challenge here, where we bring to mind someone who challenges you, someone who might have hurt you, somebody whose actions oppose your values, somebody that is working against you in some way. And see if you can just observe your breath and see if you can just stay in a place of calm as you hold this person's image in your heart and mind. See if you can just sort of gently manage your breath into that same evenness, that same sense of ease in the body, relaxation, alignment in your spine that is effortless, that is natural. Just kind of balance yourself in steadiness as you hold this person's image in your mind. And if you are able to do this, if you're able to remain in that state of balance and steadiness, maybe challenge yourself to not condone their behavior. Maybe you're not ready for forgiveness in this moment, but see if you can just offer that person an acknowledgement of their humanity. Just recognizing them as a fellow human being. And if that's challenging, just come back to the breath. Just come back to that sense of ease. Come back to your balance and equanimity. Just let a few more breaths pass. If you can stay steady, maybe open in this moment. Then release that person's memory from your mind and your heart. Just take a few more breaths. Come back into that state of stillness if you're not already there. Just kind of relax or shake out any tension. We'll begin to find a little bit of movement for our next shape. We're going to take a forward fold. So if you want to come first to knees to chest, or roll to your side, or rock and roll along the spine to come up to seated. We're going to fold forward in one of two ways. One could be with the legs extended long in front of you, using any kind of support to support your torso and body. One of my new favorite ways to do this is to place two blocks and allow my forehead to rest on the block. So this may or may not be comfortable for your body. You may or may not have this particular tool. Another way would be to bring your bolster or bed pillows over the top or in between the thighs. Possibly some folded blankets could raise up a space for your forehead to rest so you can still breathe. But kind of set yourself up for support, and then before you take your final stay in this shape, before you come forward, just kind of tuck your chin in towards your chest. Get a sense of that looking within, and then allow yourself to come to your support. That way you can kind of move your support or adjust it in some kind of way to keep that sort of inward glance as you take your fold. Now, for us to be intentional about tending to the garden of our lives, the garden of our heart, mind, our consciousness, in order for us to be able to intentionally plant seeds that take us closer to wholeness, we must remain vigilant of what's growing within, in the heart and in the mind, what seeds have already been planted, what things are coming to fruition for us in this moment. Much of the fruits that we experience in our lives are of our own making. But there are certainly fruits and plants that arrive in the garden of our lives that are planted by the seeds of others, by the actions of others, the consequences of other people's choices. Some things are indeed not within our control, as we are part of the whole. But if we remain in this state of svadhyaya, this self-awareness, if we remain committed to vigilance and deep awareness, we can begin to choose which seeds we allow to continue to propagate. Maybe we water certain fruits or certain circumstances in our lives. Maybe we apply more energy to certain things. Maybe we apply less to other things that are bringing fruits or propagating things that we don't wish to continue. And this allows us to see within ourselves how we have been both the happy person and the person who is suffering, which makes it easy to be more celebratory with those who are joyful, and and more compassionate and empathic for those who are experiencing challenge. We have been both those that exhibit noble qualities, and we have also been the ones who have opposed the values of another in a way that was maybe harmful or less than respectful. And we have also been those of noble character. We've also been the ones who've forgiven those who've opposed us. Each of us has been on every side of everything throughout our lives. And as we look within ourselves, we begin to see that the true nature of who we are is always supportive of that wholeness, that oneness, and that state of yoga. It is only when we get mixed into the temporary identities that we fall into planting seeds that are not helpful for the union of all beings, for the oneness and steadiness of our hearts and minds. Just take a few more rounds of breath. Looking clearly and honestly within. Two of these translations of this sutra mention clarity. Actually, they all do in their own way. This first one talked about to preserve openness of heart and calmness of mind, which could be seen as clarity. And then we also have in this version, from these four attitudes, is born clarity of consciousness. And this third translation words it as the mind stuff retaining its undisturbed calmness. Just take a few more breaths here. Let your exhale sort of clear out anything that might be obstructing your clarity, and let your inhale that comes in be that of clear intention. Untainted, uncolored. Then allow the back of the heart to lift you out of your fold, keeping the chin into the chest for just a few more breaths as you slowly kind of roll up and begin to stack the spine until the crown is aligned with the rest of your spine. Just take a moment in this position, more neutral in the spine, just to soften your body into the floor, relax the legs and feet. And now that we've looked within ourselves, we're going to sort of open the self up to both give and receive without fear, without distraction, and without the ego getting in the way, ideally. So this is where we're going to take that very soft bridge pose. You can use a bolster or stacked bed pillows, but I'm hoping to keep the body or the sacrum just a little closer to the floor than that might allow. So that's why a flat block or kind of an extra folded blanket might be just the right, as they're about the same thickness. If you have both, a blanket over a flat block might also feel really nice. So we're going to set whatever we're going to use to support ourselves to one side of your mat. We'll come back down to the spine. So again, take a few moments to kind of settle into that natural alignment in the spine so you can fully relax the upper body. The knees might fall together for a moment. Maybe we check in with our breath and heartbeat, kind of make sure that we're in a place of stasis, that natural calm, clarity in the mind, effortless ease in the body. Start to deepen your breath a little bit. Feel the chest and heart opening and lifting as you breathe in. And when your breath gets deep enough, take a nice full breath in to completely fill that low belly. And as you exhale, press into the feet to lift your sacrum just enough to kind of slide whatever support you are using underneath your sacrum. Now the reason we're kind of so low to the earth here is I'm hoping that we can start to extend either one or both legs. So on a much higher height of the sacrum, this is a little bit more challenging or compressing for the low back. But take a little gentle test. Just kind of let one heel slide gently away from you on your mat. And see what happens when the leg comes fully straight. See if you can just kind of relax your body into the shape. If that is not working for you, or you have any kind of low back issues that don't make that comfortable, just come back to this and perhaps give yourself just a little bit more lift
extra blanket, one extra layer maybe. So with one leg extended, if you're choosing that, just take about 7 more breaths. See how relaxed you can become. See how much you can trust that support that's below you. And notice how the lift in the sacrum begins to lift the heart towards the chin. So even though the heart is wide open here, we still have that sort of internal looking. The focus is still inward. Continuing to breathe deeply, feeling the chest and heart open and lift as you inhale. Receive the universe's kindness, compassion, the noble qualities of good teachers, and the steadiness of mind of someone who is confidently grounded in their peace. And as you exhale, just allow that exact same energy to flow from you. If it feels right, like the right time to switch legs, slowly switch legs again, testing. Sometimes each side feels a little different. If it's not comfortable, just come back to bent knees. We'll stay here for, again, about 10 breaths or so. And if both legs were separately comfortable, we might try to take a few breaths with both legs extended. But feel that openness in your heart that's allowing you to receive abundantly these qualities, receiving these seeds. Think of examples in your life where someone has shown you this joy or this kindness or this compassion, this respect. And allow it to just flow from you unchanged. Become an open vessel. And just as your breath effortlessly and naturally flows in and out, allow yourself to receive these qualities and reseed them. Let them plant in your heart and let them propagate seeds out into the world. If you still have one leg extended, we might slowly experiment with extending both legs. And again, if it doesn't feel comfortable or you don't feel trusting in your support, just come back to both knees bent. We'll only take about 3 to 5 breaths here. See if you can retain that openness in your heart, lifting and expanding as you breathe in, receiving abundantly. And then if they're not all ready, start to bring one sole of the foot back to the floor to support you in bringing the other back in. Maybe take a moment to turn the knees side to side if you're still on some kind of support. Then centering yourself, take a nice big inhale again into the belly, press into the feet to lift your sacrum again and pull your support back out from underneath you. Take any movement that feels necessary to find that comfort again, then just let the knees fall together. And again, just allow the body to get heavy and into the floor. Come back to your steadiness. The more we practice this inner stillness and inner steadiness, the better we become at maintaining this state, even as the body moves or there are distractions in the world or in our lives. Just take a few breaths in this stillness, completely letting go. We're going to come back up to a seated shape again. So taking your time to arrive fully upright. This time, if you have bed pillows or a bolster, we will use that tool next for this next shape. We might use one block, or again, maybe that double folded blanket, whatever you were using that was just a few inches off the floor might be a good fit also for this next posture. Your thick support will go perpendicular to your mat. And the block or folded blanket that you're using is going to be used to support the head. And we're going to bring it all the way to the left side of the mat, whatever that is, blanket, block.
And we're gonna kind of scoot the hip up also to that same kind of far edge of the mat. And just briefly, we're gonna lean away from the mat so that left arm is gonna come up and reach over and away from the prop setup. Kind of feel that side of the body expand, and then try to keep that openness as you fold over these supports. Now you might find that you want a little more or a little less support, so feel free to adjust. Some support between the knees can also feel really nice, and then the head can rest just in a side-lying position here, facing the same direction as your knees. We want to feel this top side of the body, the side we didn't stretch as we reached, opening a little bit. So we might just for a brief moment kind of squeeze the bottom shoulder and the bottom hip together and then soften again. Top arm can rest along the body in front of you or up and overhead. And sometimes we get really focused in our lives on our own actions and the fruits of our own actions. And we forget that we are not isolated, that we can reliably expect our actions, our choices, our words, our thoughts to affect others. And we can reasonably expect that the thoughts, actions, and words of others will also affect our lives. We are inseparable from the rest of our wholeness. And when we get into this state of kind of hyper-focus on our own choices and our own results, we might need to open ourselves up a little bit. So what we're going to do is from this side-lying shape, start to take that top arm wherever you've let it rest and swing it open. Maybe that shoulder as it opens can reach for the other side of your bolster or bed pillows. You might find that a blanket or some extra support might feel good under there. And see if maybe you can kind of turn your head so that your nose is facing the opposite direction of your knees. If you need to scoot your head support a little to support that shape, that's also a good option to take. And what we've done is kind of stay hyper-focused inward, and now we've opened our heart in a new direction. We've turned our gaze to a new perspective. Now see if you can find ease here. It's not always easy. We sort of brace ourselves as we begin to consider new ideas for what changes might come, how our seeds will change, and how those fruits will be different if we open our heart to a new way of thinking, if we change our perspective. But see if you can find some connection to that inner steadiness, that inner ease. See if you can come at least close to that natural state of softness or sukha in the body. Feel the good space in your heart center. Open up to kindness. Open up to compassion. Open up to honoring those who are noble and cultivating those noble qualities within yourself. Connect to that inner steady and calm, that equanimity, that ability to remain at peace, even in challenge. Take 2 more breaths. See how soft your body can become. See how relaxed into this openness you can be. And then rather than leaning over to that one-sided point of view that we were in before, we're going to see if we can draw the knees and the nose back to center. So this might require some support from our hands and arms, or some adjustment on our support once we arrive. Knees can stay together like this. You can use whatever was between your knees and set it to the side. You can allow the knees to open wide. You could also extend the legs long here. So there's a myriad of shapes you can take with your legs and feet. The important part is that the compression in your low back is comfortable. Now what we have here is kind of the opposite of our other back bend. In this case, the upper back is supported and the lower back is down towards the floor. So we have a sort of different sense of grounding.
And we're a little, even though the chin and the chest are closer than if we were in an upright seat, our focus is just a little bit more outward rather than inward. So as we open up in this way, this outward facing opening, receive. Allow it to flow through you unchanged by your ego, unchanged by any personal ideas, individual ideas. And allow these seeds to flow through you. Kindness, compassion, honor, and equanimity. Feel it flowing through you just as naturally as your breath. Feel free to take big gulps of air in and allow that air to flow easily and completely from you. Giving abundantly even as you receive abundantly. If knees are not currently bent, take another big breath in, and as you exhale, let your knees come back to bending. If you had any kind of support between your knees, maybe have that handy. We're going to roll to the opposite side of our support now. So again, you might need to move your head support a little bit to make this work. The bottom shoulder is between your head support and your rib support. We might have something between the knees. And again, that top arm can kind of rest alongside the top of the body, come in front of you, or reach kind of up and over. And we again might actively squeeze the bottom shoulder and the hip together for just a breath and then soften to kind of exaggerate this top rib opening. And just kind of see how we're facing one direction. The head, the heart, the knees, the gaze, everything is facing the same direction. And we sometimes fall into this false sense of isolation. That in fact we are never alone and we are never separate from anyone or anything. And sometimes in order for us to feel that connection, we have to twist ourselves open. We have to open our perspective. We have to open our hearts. So as you take your next breath in, start to open that top arm again out behind you. Allow the spine to kind of roll open so that the nose and knees are beginning to face more away from each other, adjusting your head support as needed. And then once you find a shape that's reasonably supported and comfortable, just see how soft you can get. See how relaxed and effortlessly stable you can become in the midst of transition. In the midst of changing your perspective and opening your heart to a new way of being. Opening up to possibility, even if you haven't chosen yet. Just opening up to receiving guidance. And again, anytime it feels good to take a really big, long, deep breath, to draw abundantly on that kindness, compassion, honor, and equanimity. Anytime it feels good to draw abundantly on that resource from the universe, just breathe it in as deeply as you can hold. But then also allow it to flow from you in that same measure. Let this openness also be a way of allowing space for these qualities to flow through us, that we become that empty vessel. If at any time you feel your ego getting in the way of this free flow, just breathe it out in a way that is clearing. If you can maintain that sense of ease Or work up to that sense of ease over the next few exhales. Feel the openness of heart and the calmness of mind. Feel how openness and calmness of mind contribute to and create clarity. And how that clarity allows us to see ourselves in each pair of eyes. Whether someone is happy or sad, whether they are someone we respect or somebody that we are challenged by, that we have the same equanimity within, regardless of anything outside of ourselves, remaining connected to our wholeness. When you feel like you can retain this openness even when the body moves, take a nice slow transition again to bring the knees and the nose back towards center. So we're kind of adjusting ourselves back into that little supported back bend where the sacrum and sitting bones are supported by the floor. The back of the ribs is supported by our prop, and the arms can be open. Again, knees and legs can take a variety of shapes. And just retain this same openness now. We've almost completely turned away from whatever our individualistic pursuit is, and now we're just open everywhere. Maybe you can feel breath flowing a little bit more easily in the chest and belly, but can you also feel that same breath of that life force flowing into the arms and legs in this new state of openness? The more open we are, the more easily these qualities can flow abundantly into our lives, and the more abundantly we can share them out into the world. Let's take a few more of these abundant breaths here. Then find your way very slowly with mindfulness, kind of maintaining some kind of steadiness and stillness within. Find your way from this shape back to an upright seat. You can utilize props or not utilize props. We're going to come into a brief child's pose before we find our resting pose for the night. So, supported or unsupported child's pose, your choice. We're going to come back to that space of looking within before we let the body come all the way down. So perhaps because we're in restorative and we have them available, we pop something underneath the hips or underneath the torso. But before you lower your body completely down, allow your chin to come back into that inward facing glance, chin to chest. And then just softly kind of walk yourself forward, either onto your support or onto the floor. So in our last shape, we had kind of a really, really open heart. We shifted ourselves from sort of that individualistic point of view to a more open and broad point of view. And now that we're back in a child's pose shape, we're much more focused again inward. And in this way, when we start to see everything that's supposedly quote unquote out there, other people, opposite points of view, and we start to see all of that as a manifestation of ourselves, we can bring into that same sense of awareness, that same sense of compassion, remembering that we've been on every side of each of these descriptions of people. We've been happy, we've suffered, we've had noble qualities, we've uplifted others, and we've also been unkind. Just feel the wholeness of your being. This is nothing to be ashamed of. It's not about beating ourselves up for occasionally making mistakes in our lives. It's about cultivating enough awareness to recognize when we are planting seeds that take us where we want to go, and
and when we're planting seeds that crowd out the manifestations that we're seeking. Just take another big full breath in, fill up your whole back body, let your shoulders roll forward, hold your breath for just a second, and then take a nice big sigh and just kind of let everything out. Let go of any individualistic thinking. Then you can rise up from your child's pose again, feeling free to gather any props to set yourself up for a long resting shape. You might choose to take this first portion of a rest pose seated. I will show you actually. If you have a wall close by or a bed or a couch that you can lean your back against, let me show you an option that you can take with some props. This has become like my new favorite thing. Basically, you can take bed pillows or your bolster and place it against the wall or the bed or whatever surface you're coming up against. And then I like to have kind of some knee support, so I'll take kind of a longer blanket or a long pillow of some sort, and just kind of bring the sacrum kind of firmly up against your bed pillows or your support. And then soles of the feet can come together, or you can take a cross-legged shape and just kind of support the knees. I also, again, one of my favorite things right now is having some kind of weight over my belly. So I'll kind of cue when we're about halfway through this pose. If you want to take the first part seated, you can. You can also just come on down to your flat back and rest in that position if you like. And take enough breaths and take enough time to make adjustments as needed. And we're going to take our little exercise that we did at the beginning of class and just sort of amplify it a little bit. So in order for us to do that, let's make sure that we're in that very steady state, that we feel aligned, we feel supported, we feel stable. Just observe your breath, feel that flow in, that flow out, that abundance coming in, that abundance flowing out. Let's think of examples of times where we have been especially kind, where we have been genuinely happy for another person's happiness. Think of somebody who you've seen having a really beautiful moment and it really genuinely made you smile and lifted your spirit. You felt connection to them, a celebration of their happiness. Then bring to mind a time in your life that felt that same sense of joy, a sense of achievement or success or happiness or peacefulness, excitedness, aliveness. And see if you can kind of merge those experiences in your heart. The feeling of happiness in your own life and your kindness and genuine celebration of joy in another's life. Kind of join those in your mind as one experience of kindness, of happiness. And bring to mind an experience of deep challenge or sorrow in your own life. Remember the feeling, remember being able to come out of it, and then the moment feeling like it was going to last forever, this unhappiness, this challenge, whatever it was. And then draw back to that moment of oneness with joy. a moment of joy in your own life, a moment of joy in someone else's life that you were able to genuinely celebrate. Now merge those experiences with this moment of deep sorrow within the self. Just as we can feel and celebrate another's joy, there are other people who are also experiencing some kind of pain. Maybe you can feel yourself connecting to that and not feeling as alone. Remembering that these states are temporary. Take a few just deep breaths to sort of clear the self, whether you're lying on your back or you're upright and supported. Just take a big breath in and just kind of breathe it out through the mouth, kind of clear the body. And imagine a time in your own life where you had noble intentions, where you did the right thing whether anybody was looking or not, where your motivations were entirely unselfish and pure. And bring to mind a teacher or a friend or a mentor, someone you look up to who has embodied this same kind of selflessness, who has some way worked for justice or comfort or the aid of other people. So if you can merge those experiences in your mind, the experiences of your own goodness, your own nobility, your own virtue, and the virtue of someone you respect. Just kind of pull that into your heart as one concept, being noble or pure or virtuous. And see if you can draw in your mind a comparison between a time where somebody has crossed you or has opposed you or challenged you in a way that was unpleasant, and a time where we may have engaged in some kind of opposition ourselves, where we've created or stoked or added to or been trapped by conflict in some way. And see if just for a moment we can have just a little bit of humility and grace to see any opponents we might feel that we have, any source of separation in our lives, as an ability to be empathic, to acknowledge and recognize wholeness of our own character and the wholeness of the character of others. And soften and release. Take a few of those clearing breaths again, and if you're still seated upright in your support and you would like to come down into a more supine position for the last half of our resting time or meditation time, feel free to make that transition now. This passage of the Yoga Sutras, Yoga Sutra 133, is sometimes described as the 4 locks and the 4 keys. The locks are the type of people, and the keys are the way to properly interact with that person. So we have that kindness for those who are happy, celebration with, joy with those who are happy, empathy and compassion and support for those who are challenged or struggling. We have nobility and respect and our honor for those who are virtuous, whose lives are a good example, who lead us toward the goal of oneness and compassion and union. And the ability to be humble before our own mistakes as we consider those who oppose our point of view or whose actions are indirect to our goal. Let's take a few breaths to kind of clear again. Come back to that natural state of ease. Relax into the floor. Relax into whatever support you're using. Feel that alignment and that ease of breath in, ease of breath out. Allowing these qualities to flow through you. Come back to or stay with the breath. Feel that receiving into yourself. Feel it flowing from you. Feel the undisturbed calm of the self as breath flows in and breath flows out. Feel the natural alignment of your supported spine as you relax and find ease, find sukha, good space. Recognize our choice of what kind of seeds we plant, and recognize our choice of those seeds who have been planted by others, which ones we cultivate and propagate. Feel that deep sense of stillness within, allowing your body to rest and relax. Take a few more rounds of deep breaths in and out, receiving of the abundance of the universe, letting it flow through you untouched by the ego and back out. Feel that same steadiness and stillness in your body as you begin to find soft movement in the hands and feet. Checking in with your stillness as you begin to move or stretch the arms and legs. Maintaining that inner steadiness as the body starts to flow back into an upright seat. Taking your time to arrive, acknowledging the process, being mindful at each step of the way, remaining in that constant state of vigilance and balance. Once you're upright, feel that steadiness in the low body. Feel that alignment in your spine. Feel the openness of your heart and the ability to take a higher perspective that allows us to see past our individual selves and into the wholeness of which we are a part. Draw the palms together, bringing union to self and other, to the higher self and the individual self, bringing all things into that sense of oneness, and then pull that oneness or that wholeness into your heart. Plant a seed there. Turn the gaze down towards the palms at the heart center. And commit to the tending of the garden of your mind, the garden of your life, the garden of your heart center. Make a commitment here to acknowledge what is planted, what needs to be weeded out, what needs to be supported in some way, to take us to that place of wholeness. As we begin to flow with our natural state of being, as we begin to act, think, and speak from that place of oneness and wholeness, from that state of yoga, our life becomes a service to uplift not only ourselves, but all others as well. And so we close with our prayer of service. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings be happy, healthy, safe, and free. Namaste.